The stars looked different from the observation deck of the research vessel. Horizon's edge. High-on Taiyang pressed his hand against the cold glass, watching the swirling colors of the nebula beyond. He had been staring at ancient symbols for so long that sometimes he forgot how beautiful space could be. Still obsessing over those rocks? Captain Park Nari walked up behind him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Taiyang without waiting for an answer. Taiyang took the cup and smiled weakly. They're not just rocks. Those glyphs I found on Moon 7 are older than any civilization we know. Older than the Velthrons, older than the Korvathi. Maybe millions of years old. Nari had heard this speech before. She was a practical woman who had spent 20 years in space. Ancient mysteries were interesting, but they didn't keep a ship running. And the Commonwealth thinks you're chasing ghosts. The Commonwealth thinks humans are barely smart enough to tie their own shoes, Taiyang said. There was no anger in his voice, just tired acceptance. Humanity had joined the Galactic Commonwealth 200 years ago, and they were still treated like the new kids who didn't understand anything. The comm system beeped. A young voice crackled through. Captain, you need to see this. We're getting strange readings from the Galactic Core. Nari and Taiyang rushed to the bridge. Choi Dian, their engineer, was only 26, but he knew the ship systems better than anyone. His fingers flew across the holographic display, pulling up data streams that made no sense. What am I looking at? Nari asked. Energy signatures. Massive ones. The Commonwealth just sent out a priority alert. They found something at the center of the galaxy. Something big. Taiyang leaned forward, his heart racing. The display showed a structure so enormous it made planets look like grains of sand. It was a network of crystalline pathways connecting hundreds of nodes, all pulsing with a soft blue light. They're calling it the Veil Network, Diane continued. Every science vessel in the Commonwealth is being redirected to study it. For 3 weeks, Taiyang watched the reports come in. The best minds in the galaxy were trying to understand the Veil. The Velthrons, who could process information 1,000 times faster than humans, sent their finest researchers. The Korvathi, beings of pure energy who could interface directly with technology, sent their most skilled technicians. Every single one of them failed. Not just failed. When they tried to connect with the Veil technology, something terrible happened. Their minds simply couldn't handle it. Some died instantly. Others fell into comas, their brains showing patterns that doctors had never seen before. It was like the Veil was rejecting them, pushing them away with overwhelming force. The Commonwealth banned all further direct contact. The Veil would remain a mystery, locked away and untouchable. But Taiyang couldn't stop thinking about it. He spent every free moment studying the data, comparing it with the glyphs he had found on Moon 7. And then, late one night, he saw it. The symbols matched. Not perfectly, but close enough. He burst into Nari's quarters at 3 in the morning. I know what the Veil is, he said, breathless and excited. The glyphs on Moon 7, their instructions. The Veil was built by someone called the First Makers. It requires a specific biological resonance to activate. The other species can't connect because their brains work too differently. Nari rubbed her eyes. Taiyang, it's 3 in the morning. I need to try. I need to touch one of the Veil nodes. Absolutely not. You saw what happened to the others. But what if humans are different? What if our brains work in a way that... No. Nari's voice was firm. I'm not letting you kill yourself based on some ancient graffiti. But Taiyang was persistent. For days he argued, showing her his research, explaining his theories. Finally, worn down and perhaps curious herself, Nari agreed to a compromise. There was a small Veil node on the edge of the network, far from Commonwealth patrols. They could run a quick scan, nothing more. The horizon's edge approached the node carefully. It floated in empty space, a structure of impossible geometry that seemed to shift and change when you weren't looking directly at it. Dion ran every scan he could think of, but the node remained mysterious. "It's not responding to any signals," Dion reported. "It's just sitting there." Taiyang suited up in his space gear. Nari tried one more time to stop him. "If you die out there, I'm going to be very angry with you," she said. "If I die out there, I probably won't care," Taiyang replied with a nervous grin. He floated through the airlock and drifted toward the node. His heartbeat echoed in his helmet. Every scientist who had tried this before was dead or broken. But something deep inside him said this was different. This was meant to be. His gloved hand touched the surface of the node. Light exploded through his mind. Not painful, but overwhelming. Taiyang gasped as images flooded his consciousness. Star maps, data streams, mathematical formulas that he shouldn't understand but somehow did. The veil wasn't rejecting him. It was welcoming him. "Taiyang, your vitals are spiking," Nari's voice screamed in his helmet. "Get back to the ship now." But Taiyang couldn't move. He was connected to something ancient and vast. The veil showed him visions of a galaxy long dead, of civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth had even formed. It showed him why it was built. It showed him what was coming. "Captain," Doyen's voice was barely a whisper. "The node is activating. It's responding to him." The small veil node began to glow brighter. Holographic displays erupted from its surface, showing star charts and data in languages no one had seen before. But Taiyang could read them, not with his eyes, but with his mind. When he finally pulled his hand away, he was shaking. Nari hauled him back into the ship, demanding to know if he was okay. "I'm fine," Taiyang said, his voice distant. "Better than fine." It worked. The veil connected with me. It didn't hurt. It didn't push me away. It welcomed me. "That's impossible," Nari said. "I know, but it's true." Taiyang looked at his captain with wide eyes, and I think I know why. The veil wasn't built for the Velthrins or the Kovathi or any of the advanced species. It was built for someone like us, for humans. Dion pulled up the sensor logs. "Captain, the data transmission from the node is still ongoing. It's sending information directly to Taiyang's biosigns somehow. This shouldn't be possible." Nari stared at the impossible readings on her screen. Then she looked at Taiyang, who stood there with starlight still reflected in his eyes. "We need to report this to the Commonwealth," she said quietly. "They won't believe us," Taiyang replied. "Then we'll make them believe." Nari sat down heavily in her chair. "Because if you're right, if humans can actually use this technology, everything just changed. Everything." Outside the ship, the veil node pulsed with steady blue light, waiting patiently after millions of years of silence. It had finally found what it was looking for. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. A human had touched the veil and lived. More than lived. He had connected with it in ways that made the Commonwealth's greatest scientists look helpless. Yunhana sat in her office on the diplomatic station, watching the emergency session of the Commonwealth Council. She was humanity's representative in this sector. And right now, every species in the galaxy wanted answers she didn't have. "The human must be handed over for study immediately," declared the Velthrin ambassador. Its crystalline body reflected the harsh lights of the council chamber. "This is a matter of galactic security. We're not handing over anyone," Hana replied calmly, though her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. "Taiyang is a citizen of Earth. He has rights. Rights?" The Kovathi representative flickered with angry energy. 17 of our best minds are dead because of the vial. If humans have the key to understanding it, that knowledge belongs to all of us." The debate raged for hours. Hannah held her ground. But she knew Earth's small fleet couldn't protect Taiyang if the Commonwealth decided to take him by force. She needed help, and she needed it fast. On Earth, Kan Jiho stood in the military command center, watching the same debate. He was 51 years old and had spent his entire career preparing for the day when humanity would have to defend itself. He never imagined it would be because they could do something the advanced species couldn't. "Get our fleet ready," he ordered. "If they try to take Taiyang, we fight." His second-in-command looked worried. "Sir, we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "I know, but we're not giving up one of our people without a fight." Meanwhile, Sora was doing what she did best. The 29-year-old neuroscientist had been studying the scans of Taiyang's brain activity during his contact with the Veil. What she found shocked her. She called her old professor, Rin Minho, even though he had retired 5 years ago. "Look at these patterns," she said, sharing her screen. When Taiyang connected with the Veil, his brain didn't follow normal pathways. It jumped around, made random connections, processed information in ways that seemed chaotic. Minho leaned closer to his display, his elderly eyes sharp with interest. "The Veil must work on quantum principles. It needs chaos, not order." "Exactly." Sora was almost shouting with excitement. "Every other species we know has brains that work logically, step by step. Humans are different. We're messy. We make intuitive leaps. We dream and imagine and create in ways that don't make logical sense. The Veil needs that. So the reason other species die when they touch the Veil is because their minds are too organized. They create destructive interference patterns. But human brains are naturally chaotic enough to Veil's quantum processing." Minho sat back in his chair. "We need to publish this immediately." "Already done," Sora said. "I sent it to every major scientific institution in the Commonwealth an hour ago." The impact was immediate. Scientists across the galaxy confirmed Sora's findings. Humans weren't smarter than other species. They were just different in exactly the right way. On the horizon's edge, Taiyang was experiencing changes he didn't fully understand. Ever since touching the Veil, he could still feel it in his mind. It was like a whisper at the edge of his thoughts, sharing information, showing him things. "More Veil sites are activating," he told Nari. "I can feel them waking up across the galaxy. They've been dormant for millions of years, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Diane asked. Taiyang closed his eyes, listening to the whisper from the Veil. For someone who could understand them. The First Makers built the Veil as a defense system. There's something out there, something they called the Silence. It destroys intelligence, consumes consciousness itself. The First Makers fought it and lost. The Veil was their last hope. A weapon that could only be activated by a species with the right kind of mind. "And we're that species," Nari said quietly. "We're that species." But not everyone was happy about this revelation. 3 ships appeared on their sensors, moving fast. Nari recognized their signatures immediately. Velthram warships. They're not here to talk. The Horizon's Edge was a research vessel, not built for combat. Nari pushed the engines as hard as she could, but the Velthran ships were faster. "They're demanding we hand over Taiyang," Doyen reported, his voice tight with fear. Nari opened a channel. "This is Captain Park Nari of the Horizon's Edge. Taiyang is under Earth's protection. You have no authority here." "We have the authority of necessity," came the cold reply. "Stand down or be destroyed." Taiyang stood up. "I'll go with them. I won't let you die for me." "Sit down," Nari snapped. "Nobody's dying today." She sent out an emergency broadcast on all frequencies. "This is the Horizon's Edge. We are being attacked by Commonwealth forces attempting to kidnap a human citizen. We request immediate assistance." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, ships began appearing. Human ships, dozens of them, jumping in from every direction. Jiho had mobilized the fleet. Velthran vessels, this is Commander Kang Jiho of the Earth Defense Force. You will stand down immediately. The standoff lasted for 3 tense hours. Neither side willing to fire the first shot, but neither willing to back down. Finally, a new voice entered the communication channel. This is Yoon Hana, speaking on behalf of the Commonwealth Diplomatic Corps and Earth. I have negotiated a temporary agreement. Nari felt her shoulders relax slightly. What kind of agreement? Humanity will share access to the Veil technology, Hana explained, but only under human control. We will train human operators, establish protocols, and work with Commonwealth scientists. But we will not hand over our people, and we will not be forced into anything. The Velthran commander was silent for a moment. The Council has agreed to these terms. For now, the warships pulled back. The human fleet held position until they were gone. Taiyang let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. That was close. Too close, Nari agreed. But it's not over. They'll keep pushing, keep demanding more. She was right. In the weeks that followed, more Veil sites activated across the galaxy. Each one needed a human operator to access it safely. Earth began training people, hundreds of them, to work with the ancient technology. Taiyang spent his time learning everything he could from the Veil. It showed him its purpose, its design, its warnings about the silence. And it showed him something else, something that worried him deeply. The Veil wasn't just a defense system. It was a tool that could reshape reality itself. It could create wormholes, manipulate space and time, alter the very fabric of the universe. In the right hands, it could save the galaxy. In the wrong hands, it could destroy everything. We're not ready for this kind of power, he told Minho during one of their research sessions. The old professor nodded. No one ever is. But the Veil chose humanity. For better or worse, this is our burden now. Across the galaxy, other humans were beginning to connect with the Veil. Each one felt the same whisper, the same ancient knowledge flowing into their minds. They were becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And in the dark spaces between the stars, something else stirred. The silence, dormant for millions of years, sensed the Veil awakening. It began to move, slowly but inevitably, toward the galaxy that had once escaped it. The clock was ticking, and humanity didn't even know it yet. Baeyuna was only 16 years old when she first touched the Veil. She had volunteered for the training program, despite her age. And within minutes of making contact, everyone knew she was special. Her connection is stronger than anyone we've seen, Sora reported to Taiyang. They stood in the observation room, watching through glass as Yuna interfaced with a small Veil node. She's not just reading the data, she's controlling it. Taiyang watched in amazement as the young girl made the Veil respond to her thoughts. Holographic displays danced around her, shifting and changing with her intentions. While other operators could barely access the Veil's information, Yuna was programming it. How is this possible? Minho asked. She was born after we discovered the Veil, Sora said thoughtfully. Maybe her generation is already changing, adapting. Humanity had set up Veil access stations across the galaxy. Trained human operators worked in shifts, unlocking the ancient network's secrets piece by piece. The Commonwealth watched nervously, grateful for human help but terrified of human power. Not everyone on Earth was comfortable with the situation either. Oh, Jaimon was 45 years old and had spent decades fighting for human independence. Now he saw an opportunity. We control the most powerful technology in the galaxy, he told his followers in a secret meeting. Why are we sharing it? Why are we letting the species that looked down on us for 200 years benefit from our gift? Because that's the right thing to do, said someone in the crowd. Jiwon's eyes hardened. The right thing? They would take this from us if they could. They would study us like lab animals. We need to use the veil to protect ourselves, to make sure humanity never bows to anyone again. His movement grew quietly, spreading among humans who felt the same resentment. They didn't want to destroy other species. They just wanted humanity to be strong, to be respected, to never be victims again. Meanwhile, Namisal moved through the shadows. The 33-year-old intelligence operative worked for a secret Commonwealth organization that answered to no council. Her mission was simple: steal veil technology by any means necessary. She got herself assigned to a veil access station as a liaison officer. For weeks, she watched human operators work, studied their techniques, recorded everything. Then one night, when security was light, she tried to access the veil herself. The pain was instant and overwhelming. Her mind simply couldn't handle the quantum chaos of the veil's processing. She collapsed, screaming, her brain flooding with incompatible data patterns. Security found her unconscious, with permanent damage to her neural pathways. She lived, Kaujina reported. The medical officer had treated dozens of similar cases. But she'd never think the same way again. The veil rewrites neural connections in non-human species. It's not fatal, but it's permanent. The incident proved what everyone already knew. Only humans could safely use the veil. This made some Commonwealth members grateful. Others grew more fearful and resentful. Doyan worked day and night on a solution. The young engineer believed that if they couldn't change how other species' brains worked, maybe they could change how the veil interface worked. After months of research, he created a pair of specialized gloves equipped with human-designed processors that mimicked human neural patterns. When a non-human wore the gloves, they could interact with the veil through a human operator acting as a buffer. It's not perfect, Doyan explained to Nari. The human still has to be in primary control, but at least other species can participate. They can see what we see, contribute their knowledge. The gloves were a diplomatic breakthrough. Commonwealth scientists could finally work directly with veil technology, even if they needed human partners. Tension eased slightly across the galaxy, but then Jiwan made his move. He and his followers had been planning for months. They seized control of 3 veil nodes in remote sectors, using human operators loyal to their cause. Before anyone could stop them, they activated the node's defensive systems. "We are not your servants," Jiwan broadcast to the entire galaxy. "We are not your tools. From this moment forward, humanity demands full sovereignty. We want our own territory, our own government, free from Commonwealth interference. If you refuse, we will demonstrate the veil's power." Jiho tried to negotiate, but Jiwan wasn't listening. He had waited too long to see humanity respected. "You have 48 hours to agree to our terms," Jiwan said. "After that, we activate the veil's weapon systems. We don't want war, but we will not be slaves." The galaxy held its breath. Commonwealth fleets mobilized. Human forces split between those loyal to Earth's government and those who agreed with Jiwan's stance. The situation spiraled toward catastrophe. Taiyang and Nari rushed to one of the seized nodes, hoping to talk sense into the rebels. But when they arrived, they found Yuna already there. The young girl stood before the veil node, her eyes closed, her hands moving through holographic displays that only she could see. She was connected deeper to the veil than anyone had ever been. "Yuna, what are you doing?" Taiyang called out. Her eyes opened, but they glowed with an eerie blue light. The First Makers left a message. A warning. "The veil is showing me." Images erupted from the node, projecting into the air for everyone to see. An ancient galaxy, thriving with life. Then something else appeared at its edges. Darkness. Not the darkness of empty space, but something that consumed everything it touched. Stars, planets, life, consciousness itself. All of it vanished into the void. The silence, Una said, her voice strange and distant. It destroyed the first makers. It consumed an entire galaxy. The veil was built to stop it, but the first makers died before they could activate it. The veil waited. It waited for millions of years until a species with the right minds appeared. How long do we have? Nari asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. It's already here, at the galaxy's edge, moving inward. If we don't stop it, everything ends. The transmission reached every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. Jiwan's ultimatum suddenly seemed small and meaningless. Humanity's political status didn't matter if everyone was dead. G1 watched the images from his captured node. He saw the silence devouring worlds, consuming civilizations. He had spent years hating the Commonwealth, wanting revenge for humanity's treatment. But faced with something that would destroy everyone equally, his anger felt empty. Stand down, he ordered his followers quietly. Release the nodes, sir? One of his lieutenants asked. I said stand down. There's no point in fighting each other when that thing is coming. Hana worked frantically to organize a response. She brought together representatives from every major species, including Jiwan's movement. The meeting was tense, filled with old anger and fresh fear. We need to work together, she said simply. The veil can stop the silence, but only if we activate its full defense network. That requires human operators all across the galaxy, working in coordination. Millions of them. And in return? The Velthran ambassador asked. In return, humanity gets real respect. Real autonomy. Real representation in the Commonwealth. We're not asking to rule anyone. We just want to be equals. The negotiations took days, but finally an agreement emerged. The Compact of Stars. Humans would lead the defense against the silence, operating the Veil Network. In exchange, humanity would gain significant political power and the right to govern themselves however they chose. But even as they signed the agreement, Sora's research revealed a troubling truth. She called Taiyang and Minho to her lab. I've been studying the long-term effects of veil exposure, she said, her voice shaking. It's changing us. Every human who works with the veil has their neural pathways altered. Not damaged like other species, but modified. Made more compatible. Is that dangerous? Taiyang asked. I don't know. But children born to veil operators show even greater natural affinity. We're evolving, Taiyang. The veil is rewriting humanity at a fundamental level. In a few generations, we might not even recognize ourselves. The galaxy prepared for war while humanity prepared to change forever. Training centers opened on every human world. Millions volunteered to become veil operators, knowing it would alter them permanently. And at the edge of the galaxy, the silence continued its slow, inevitable advance toward the light. The outer colonies died first. Not with explosions or battles, but with silence. One day they were there, sending regular transmissions, living their lives. The next day, nothing. When Commonwealth ships arrived to investigate, they found empty worlds. Buildings intact, technology still running, but every living thing simply gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just absence. It's moving faster than we calculated, Taiyang said, studying the reports. The silence consumed 3 more systems yesterday. At this rate, it'll reach the core worlds in months. Shinera stood in the briefing room with other military pilots. At 31, she was one of the youngest squadron leaders in Earth's Defense Force. Now she was being asked to fly a ship enhanced with veil technology into battle against something no one understood. The veil can create localized space-time distortions, the tactical officer explained. With human operators, our ships can move through dimensions the silence can't follow. In theory, Era raised an eyebrow. Has anyone actually tested this? You'll be the first. Era looked at her squadron. 12 pilots, all volunteers, all knowing they might not come back. Well, she said with a grim smile, at least we'll make history one way or another. Wang Sunho had been a Meyer before the veil came into his life. At 44, he never expected to be part of saving the galaxy. But when they tested him, he showed a natural ability to connect with the veil. Now he was being trained to operate one of the most critical nodes in the network. I don't understand. Half of what this thing is showing me, he admitted to his instructor. You don't have to understand it, the instructor replied. You just have to feel it. Let the veil guide your instincts. Sunho tried again, closing his eyes and reaching out with his mind. The veil responded, showing him patterns and possibilities. It was like learning a new language without words, communicating through pure thought and emotion. Yuna and Taiyang worked together constantly now, diving deeper into the veil's archives than anyone else could. They were learning the truth about the first makers. And it wasn't what anyone expected. They weren't one species, Yuna said, her eyes distant as she processed information from the veil. They were a coalition. Dozens of different civilizations working together, just like the Commonwealth. So what happened to them? Taiyang asked. They tried to fight the silence with conventional weapons. It didn't work. The silence exists partially outside normal space-time. You can't destroy it with bombs or energy weapons. They built the veil as a last resort, a way to create a barrier the silence couldn't cross. But they died before they could activate it. Because they lack something we have, Yuna continued. The first makers were all highly advanced, logical species. Their minds worked in ordered, predictable ways. They couldn't operate the veil because they couldn't match its quantum chaos. Taiyang felt a chill. So humans are only useful because we're chaotic? Because our brains are messy enough. We're useful because we evolved naturally to be exactly what the veil needs. The first makers never engineered us. We're not some ancient project. We're just incredibly lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. Back on Earth, Jiwan sat in a detention cell. His coup attempt had failed, but he wasn't being treated as a criminal. The government understood his motivations, even if they disagreed with his methods. Jiho visited him one evening. The two men had known each other for years, had fought together in humanity's early struggles with the Commonwealth. They're letting you out, Jiho said. We need every human we can get to operate the veil, even angry ones. Jiwan looked up. I was wrong. I let my pride put humanity at risk. You wanted us to be strong. That's not wrong. You just chose the wrong method at the wrong time. Will you trust me again? Jiho considered for a moment. Trust is earned, but I'll give you the chance to earn it. Help us stop the silence. That's what matters now. The training programs ran day and night. Millions of humans learned to connect with the veil, each one adding their consciousness to the growing network. Keogina studied them all, documenting the changes happening to their brains. It's not just neural pathways anymore, she reported to the medical council. Their DNA is changing, slowly but measurably. The veil is rewriting humanity at a genetic level. Can we stop it? Someone asked. I don't think so. And I'm not sure we should. These changes make them better operators. Stronger, faster connections. Their children will be even more capable. So we're creating a new species? Gina nodded slowly. Homo sapiens is becoming something else. Homo stellars, perhaps. Star humans. I don't know what will be in 100 years. Our squadron made their first combat run against the silence. Their veil-enhanced ships moved through space in ways that should have been impossible, phasing between dimensions, dodging the silence's consuming tendrils. It's not a creature, Era reported over the comm. It's more like a force of nature. A storm made of darkness that eats consciousness. They managed to slow its advance at the system's edge, using veil technology to create temporary errors. But they couldn't stop it. The silence kept coming, patient and relentless. Fall back, Era ordered. We need a better plan. Hannah had been working on that plan. The Compact of Stars was now fully implemented. Humans held positions of real power in the Commonwealth. But more importantly, they had the resources and support to build a galaxy-wide defense. We need to activate the Veil Core, she told the Commonwealth Council. It's the central hub of the entire network, located at the Galactic Center. According to our research, it can create a barrier around the entire galaxy if enough human operators are synchronized. What's the catch? The Kovathi representative asked. The catch is that no one has survived traveling to the Veil Core. The spatial distortions around it are too severe. Ships get torn apart. Crews go mad from the reality distortions. So we need someone crazy enough to try anyway. In the conference room, Tai Yang stood up. I'll go. Nari immediately protested. Absolutely not. We've already lost too many people. I have the strongest connection to the Veil. If anyone can survive the trip, it's me. Yuna touched Tai Yang's arm. You won't be alone. I can maintain a mental link with you through the Veil. I'll be your anchor, keeping you grounded no matter how far you go. Sora ran the calculations. It could work. The Veil creates a kind of quantum entanglement between operators. If Yuna stays connected to Tai Yang, she might be able to stabilize his consciousness, even across light years. The mission was approved. Tai Yang, Nari, and Doyan would take a specially modified ship to the Veil Core. It would be a one-way journey for most of them. Only Tai Yang needed to reach the core alive. The night before departure, Tai Yang found Jiwan among the other Veil operators. I heard what you're planning, Jiwan said. You're braver than I am. Not brave. Just doing what needs to be done. I'm sorry for what I tried to do. I wanted humanity to be strong, but I almost destroyed everything. Tai Yang put a hand on the older man's shoulder. You wanted the same thing we all want. You just forgot that strength comes from working together, not standing alone. As preparations continued, the silence grew closer. More worlds fell silent. More lives vanished into the consuming darkness. Millions of human operators across the galaxy prepared for the moment when they would all link their minds together through the veil. They were scared. They were changing. They were becoming something new. But they were also determined. Humanity had been given a gift and a curse, a power they never asked for, and a responsibility they couldn't refuse. The galaxy's survival depended on the chaotic, messy, unpredictable minds of humanity. And they would not fail. The ship shook violently as it approached the galactic center. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around them. Tai Yang gripped his seat while Nari fought to keep them on course. Space-time readings are off the scale, Doyen reported, his voice strained. The Veil Core is creating distortions that shouldn't be possible. Through the viewport, they could see it. The core was enormous, a structure that dwarfed stars, pulsing with ancient power. It had waited here for millions of years, silent and patient, until someone with the right mind could activate it. I'm connecting with you now. Yuna's voice came through the veil itself, not through any radio. She was thousands of light years away, but her consciousness touched Tai Yang's through the quantum network. I can feel you. Don't let go of me. Tai Yang closed his eyes and felt her presence. It was like a thread of light connecting them across impossible distances. As long as that thread held, he wouldn't lose himself in the chaos ahead. The ship moved deeper into the distortion field. Doyan's instruments started showing impossible readings. Time moved differently here. flowing backward and forward simultaneously. Space folded in on itself. The normal laws of physics gave up trying to make sense. "I'm seeing things," Nari said quietly. "Memories that aren't mine. Places I've never been." "The veil core is bleeding through," Taiyang explained. "It's showing us its memories. The first maker's memories." And then Taiyang saw them. Not through his eyes, but through the veil's vast consciousness. The first makers have been beautiful and diverse. Crystalline beings that sang in harmonies of light. Energy creatures that danced between dimensions. Biological entities with 1,000 different forms. They had built a civilization of unimaginable wonder. Then the silence came. It didn't attack with weapons. It simply consumed. Every conscious mind it touched simply ceased to exist, pulled into a void where thought itself couldn't survive. The first makers fought for centuries, but consciousness was their strength, and the silence's food in desperation. They built the Veil, a network that could protect consciousness by existing in quantum superposition, neither fully real nor unreal. But their ordered, logical minds couldn't operate it. The Veil needed chaos, needed the messy unpredictability of random thought patterns. They knew they would fail, Taiyang whispered. They built the Veil knowing they wouldn't live to use it. They built it for whoever came after. For us, Yuna said through their connection. The ship reached the core's outer edge. Nari brought them as close as she dared, but she couldn't go further. The distortions would tear the ship apart. "This is as far as we go," she said. Taiyang unbuckled his harness. "I know. Thank you for getting me this far." Nari grabbed his arm. "Come back if you can. I'll try." Doyun handed him a small device. "This will keep your vital signs stable, hopefully." Taiyang suited up and stepped into the airlock. As it opened, space itself seemed wrong. Colors that shouldn't exist. Sounds in the vacuum. The taste of time itself on his tongue. He pushed off from the ship and floated toward the Veil core. The journey should have taken minutes, but it felt like hours or seconds or both. Taiyang held tight to Yuna's presence in his mind. She was his anchor, his connection to sanity as reality fell apart around him. When he finally touched the core's surface, everything changed. His consciousness expanded outward, touching every veil node in the galaxy. Through them, he felt millions of human operators, all waiting for this moment. He felt Yuna's brilliant young mind, Sunho's steady determination, Era's fierce courage, Jiwan's regret and hope, Hannah's diplomatic wisdom. He felt them all, and he understood what needed to be done. Back across the galaxy, every human connected to the Veil felt it simultaneously. The activation sequence had begun. "Link your minds," Yuna transmitted to all operators. "Follow Taiyang's lead. Let the Veil connect us all. One by one, then in groups, then in massive waves, human consciousness merged into the Veil network." It wasn't like losing themselves. It was like becoming part of something larger while remaining individuals. A symphony where every note was distinct but harmonized perfectly. The silence reached a major Commonwealth world. Billions of people evacuated, but millions remained. As the darkness approached, they felt terror unlike anything they had ever known. Then the Veil activated. A barrier of folded space-time erupted around the galaxy, shimmering with the combined consciousness of millions of humans. The silence crashed against it like a wave against a cliff, but it wasn't enough. "It's too strong," Era reported from her squadron. "The barrier is holding, but barely." Yuna felt it through the network. The silence wasn't just a force. It was intelligent in its own terrible way. It probed the barrier, looking for weaknesses, testing the strength of human will. "We need to do more than defend," she realized. "We need to push back." She sent the thought through the network to Taiyang. He understood immediately. The veil wasn't just a shield. It was a weapon, but to use it that way, someone needed to become the weapon's guiding intelligence. Someone needed to merge completely with the veil core, giving up their individual existence to become its consciousness. Taiyang knew what that meant. He would never return to being human. He would become part of the veil itself, neither alive nor dead, but something in between. He thought of his friends, his family, his life on Earth, everything he would lose. Then he thought of the galaxy, all the species, human and alien, who deserved to live, all the future generations who would never exist if he failed. "I'm sorry," he whispered to Yuna through their connection. "No," she said, feeling his intention. Taiyang, "Don't." But he had already made his choice. Taiyang opened himself completely to the veil core. His consciousness flowed into it, merging with the ancient technology, becoming one with its vast intelligence. He stopped being Haiyan Taiyang and became something else. Something new. Through millions of human operators, the veil surged with new power. Taiyang's sacrifice gave it focus, direction, purpose. The barrier around the galaxy stopped just defending and started attacking. Human consciousness, in all its chaotic, creative, unpredictable glory, projected itself outward as a weapon. The silence had never encountered anything like it. It fed on ordered thought, on predictable patterns. But human minds were anything but predictable. They dreamed. They imagined. They created contradictions and paradoxes. They felt joy and sorrow simultaneously. They believed impossible things and made them real through sheer will. Their consciousness was fundamentally incompatible with the silence's existence. The silence began to fracture. Not destroyed, but forced back. Unable to consume something so inherently chaotic, Yuna felt tears streaming down her face as she helped guide the counterattack. She could still feel Taiyang, but he was different now. He was everywhere and nowhere, part of the veil itself. "Push harder," she commanded the network. "Don't let it recover." Millions of humans focused their minds through the veil, not with hate or anger, but with everything that made them human. Love and hope, creativity and chaos, dreams and determination. They pushed the silence back beyond the galaxy's edge, further and further, until it fled into the dark spaces between galaxies. The veil settled into a new mode, Guardian mode, maintaining a permanent watch over the galaxy, keeping the silence at bay. Slowly, the human operators disconnected from the network. Exhausted, changed, but alive, Yuna was the last to disconnect. She reached out one more time through the veil. "Taiyang? Are you still there?" For a moment, silence. Then, like a whisper carried on quantum winds, she felt his response. Not words exactly, but meaning. He was still there, just not in any form that could be called human anymore. He was the guardian now, the watcher, the consciousness that guided the veil. "I understand," Yuna said quietly. "Rest well, friend." The aftermath took months to process. The silence was gone, but the galaxy was forever changed. Humanity's position in the Commonwealth was transformed. They were no longer the junior species, barely tolerated. They were the Veil Keepers, essential and respected. Nari became the first human member of the Commonwealth High Council. She fought for fair treatment not just for humans, but for all species. Jiho restructured Earth's military around Veil defense. Jiwan worked with him, his redemption found in protecting the very Commonwealth he once hated. Sora and Gina continued their research. They confirmed what everyone suspected. Human children born after the veil activation showed even greater affinity for the technology. Humanity was evolving into something new, guided by the ancient network that had chosen them. What are we becoming? Someone asked Sora at a scientific conference. "We're becoming the Guardians," she replied. "The keepers of consciousness in a galaxy that almost lost everything." Hana established the first Makers Memorial Institute, ensuring that the galaxy would remember both the ancient civilization that sacrificed everything and the price of survival on Earth. Diane stood in his workshop, looking at designs for new Veil-enhanced technology. The possibilities seemed endless now. Not weapons, but tools for exploration, for creation, for connecting species across impossible distances. He thought about Taiyang, about the sacrifice his friend had made. Then he got back to work. The best way to honor that sacrifice was to build a future worth saving. Yuna grew older, taking over Taiyang's research. She became the foremost expert on the Veil, teaching Nuji